Hello, welcome to Sack to the Future. This is just a wrap up, the Week 17 newspaper, if you will. But because the regular season is over, we are wrapping up the entire season, mostly talking, partially talking, and showing the stats just for myself for Sack to the Future history purposes. But we'll go through it if anyone does listen to this video. So, starting with the AFC North, the Cleveland Browns won 5 in a row to end the year and win the division at 11-5. The Cincinnati Bengals, as a wildcard team at 9-6-1. The Steelers, at one point in time, were 7-3-1 and leading the division, but they choked at the end, lost 5 straight. Still ended up outscoring their opponents by 23 points throughout the year, but finished 7-8-1. And in third place, no playoff appearance for the Steelers. Used it to their advantage, going 13-3 and getting home field throughout the playoffs. The Baltimore Colts finished in second and grabbed a wild card at 12-4, and the two semi-pro teams combined for 4 wins. In the East, the Miami Dolphins, the only team to go to the playoffs from this division. They are division winners at 11-5. The Patriots edge out the Jets for second place at 7-9. Jets also 7-9, and the Buffalo Bills, one of the prime teams, finished 6-9-1 and in dead last. And in the West, the Kansas City Chiefs looked like the 1 seed all year long, jumped out to a 12-1 record, and then lost 3 straight to give the 1 seed away to the Oilers. So the Chiefs will go in as the 2 seed and division winners. The Broncos similarly lost 4 of their last 5 to blow a playoff spot at 9-7 and missed the playoffs. The Chargers had injuries early. Hadel came back and they looked real dangerous at the end of the year, but they will not make the playoffs at 8-8. And the Raiders were very disappointing throughout the year, finished 6-10 and in last place. And the NFC North, home of your Chicago Bears, or my Chicago Bears. Bears unfortunately finished in third, but the Vikings won the division rather easily, won 6 straight to close out the year after sort of struggling in the beginning. They were in first the whole time, but at 6-4, it seemed like they were catchable. Then they went on a rampage, especially defensively, shut people down, won 6 straight, finished 12-4. The Detroit Lions, they played well down the stretch, but it was too little too late. At 9-7, they finish outside of the playoffs looking in. Second place in the division. 3 games behind the Vikings, but 4 games in front of the Chicago Bears. Again, another one of your prime teams, my favorite team. Bad year for the Bears, 5-11. But the only thing that saves the Bears season is they gave up 100 points less and finished above the Green Bay Packers, the most hated team in the National Football League. Of course, that's personal speaking. But the Packers 3-13, love to see it. Absolute trash. Got outscored 2-1, exactly 2-1. Scored 212 points, allowed 424 points. The worst defense in the league, I believe. We'll check that in a second, but the Packers were disgustingly horrible. In the South, again, there's only 2 teams to talk about. The semi-pro teams, the Panthers had 4 wins. The Bucks had 6 wins, which is amazing for a semi-pro team. And you look at the scoring, they actually were only outscored by 77 points. That's better than like the Packers and some real teams. So Buccaneers really played well for a semi-pro team, but who cares? Saints are one of the real teams. They used all those semi-pro games to get to 9-7. So you wonder how bad they would have been without such an easy schedule. But still, even with that schedule, unable to make the playoffs at 9-7. But how about the Falcons? Started off 3-4, and then really took advantage. In fact, I think they were 3-0 against semi-pro teams and 0-4 against real teams. But then they caught fire, won 9 in a row, all the way to the 2nd seed in the NFC at 12-4. Sure, part of that was an easy schedule, but still, winners of 9 straight, not to be overlooked. In the East, the best team in football, the Cowboys, all year long. They were amazing. The only team to go over 500 points on the season, the number 1 offense for sure. And just the 1-score loss to the rival Philadelphia Eagles is the only thing that kept them from being undefeated. They are a beast and also the real-life 71 champions. So that's the only thing going against them here in the Sack to Future season, but absolutely brilliant. Won the division by 5 games. The Redskins finished in second, 5 games behind the Cowboys, and still made the playoffs at 10-6. A good enough year. Lost 2 straight to end the year, so that's a problem. But they did go 10-6, and they are headed to the playoffs. The Eagles were very up and down, not streaky though. I don't know that they won or lost more than 2 in a row either way, and then the finish exactly 500, 8-8, outscored by 12 points, so that's less than 1 point per game. They were the most mediocre team that we've ever seen. And the Giants were worse than that. Another prime team that finishes in last place. Better record than the Bears, but a worse finish. So the Bills and Giants both go 6-9-1. The Bears were was it 6-10 or 5-10? 5-11. So 3 horrible teams, and then of course the Cowboys were great. But the Giants not outscored a ton, but 6-9-1, not a good year at all for the G-men. And in the West, some of the craziest. First of all, the semi-pro team, 0-16, who cares? Arizona Cardinals played pretty well all year long, outscored their opponents, went 9-7, just missed the playoffs. The Rams were on fire early. They were 10-3 at one point. Before that, I believe they were 9-2. So they went from 9-2 and then finished 10-6, went losing 4 of their last 5, and such a bad end of the season that they actually lost the division to the 49ers. 49ers at 10-6 win the division. So now, in case I wasn't clear, let's take a look at the playoff schedule. You have the 6-seed Bengals are going to visit Miami, the 3-seed, in the AFC, and the other AFC game is a rematch of Real Life 71. The Baltimore Colts, as the 5-seed, the best wildcard team, will go into Cleveland to play the Cleveland Browns, the 3-seed. On the NFC side, the Rams still made the playoffs, but they were in a downward spiral at the end of the year, 10-6. They'll go in to play a team on the other end of the spectrum, winning out, the last 5 games of the season to get to, 6 games. The Vikings won 6 straight. The Rams have lost 4 out of 5. So it seems like the Vikings everything's going the Vikings' way, but we'll see what happens when the 3-seed hosts the 6-seed. And then down below, 2 teams that both finished 10-6. 49ers will host because they won their division. Redskins are 10-6. That shames in this one. Although the Bengals and Dolphins, when they played in the regular season, it was a slugfest back and forth, and the Bengals held on, so that could be a good game too. It just seems like the Vikings and Rams are going in 2 different directions. So, of course, what that means is the Rams will probably win that game. The 1 seed, of course, is the Cowboys and the Oilers, and the 2 seeds are the Falcons and the Chiefs. All right. Now, how about we... Wait a minute. Not schedule. Let's go stats. Let's do some awards here. Weekly awards just to show it. Week 17, Lou Bugis of the Eagles, and Walt Willingham of the Cardinals. John Hadel, he's played really well in the last few games after coming back from injury, but Chargers were unable to make the playoffs, and Reed had 3 sacks for the Bengals. Let's see if the year awards are finalized. Wow, look at this. In 1971, the actual MVP in real-life history was Alan Page, and here in Sack to the Future, the MVP is Alan Page, so that's pretty cool. Coach of the Year, they're going to give it to, it's Jason Garrett. We're going to say Tom Landry, of course, of the Cowboys. All right. And then we have, take a look at team stats here. I won't go down the whole list, but let's just see. Offensive, your top 6 offensive teams. The 49ers were the number 1 offense yards-wise, just 5 yards more than the Cowboys. I thought the Cowboys led in everything, but the Niners are actually the number 1 team as far as yardage goes. Cowboys were 2. Chargers missed the playoffs, but were 3 in offense. Chiefs are 4. Rams 5. And the Raiders, even though they had a disappointing year, were pretty good at offense. Judging by passing, number 1 Cowboys, 2 49ers, Chargers, Chiefs, Bengals, and Raiders. Running the football, it was the number 1 team was the Rams, over 2,800 yards. The Browns seem to hit this every year, even though Lee Raquel only had about 1,000. The team had over 2,700. Chargers ran the ball well. Also, Broncos 2690, the Oilers at 2685, and the Cardinals 2680. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different teams had 2,680 yards or more on the ground. You love to see it in 1971. Points per game, we know it was the Cowboys, 31.4 points per game. Niners are second best. Then you got Chiefs, Rams, Oilers, and Dolphins. Those are all playoff teams. Checking the defense. Number 1 defense, the Kansas City Chiefs, the 2 seed AFC. Then the 49ers, the 2 defense. So I didn't realize that, but yardage-wise, even though the 49ers were only 10-6, they were number 1 in offensive yards and number 2 in defensive yards allowed. So that is, the 49ers might be a team to watch in the playoffs. Colts were 3rd, Vikings 4th, Rams 5th, and the Cowboys were 6th. Defending the pass, Chiefs right. And defending the run, Cowboys number 1, Chiefs number 2, Rams 3, 49ers 4, Colts 5, and Vikings 6. Points allowed, of course, the most important stat, Colts number 1, Chiefs 2, Oilers 3, Cowboys 4, Rams 5, Vikings 6. Now, again, caveat, number 1 Colts and number 3 Oilers, super easy schedules, so just keep that in mind. You could definitely argue the Chiefs maybe were the most impressive defensive team because of strength of schedule, and even the Rams and Vikings, probably Cowboys, Rams, and Vikings probably get more credit than the Oilers because of the disparity in schedule. Sacks, I told you there was too many at the beginning of the year, so the leading sack team was the Minnesota Vikings with 91. 91 sacks as a team. My goodness. And interceptions, the leader was also the Vikings, 34, so 91 sacks and 34 picks. Watch out when you play that Viking defense. The Purple People Eaters are on the hunt, and the Chiefs actually recovered the most fumbles. All right, let's go to player stats. NFL passing. We have the leader. The passing yardage leader was Len Dawson of the Kansas City Chiefs, 3,733 yards. There was a total of 4 quarterbacks that broke the 3,000-yard mark. Len Dawson, John Brody, Roger Staubach all go into the playoffs. And then, of course, the semi-pro team from Carolina had a 3,000-yard passer. Touchdown passes. Staubach was number 1 with 21. The rookie Jim Plunkett had 19 for the Patriots. Brody 18, Dawson 17, Hadel 16. Look at Hadel was very good. 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. If he wasn't injured, the Chargers probably make the playoffs. And then, of course, rating number 1 is Roger Staubach. Morton, it looks like he did. I don't know what I think you have to have 100 pass attempts, so I don't think he qualifies. But if he was 6 passes away from being the number 2 quarterback in the league, so number 2 is actually John Hadel. I told you he was good. Phipps, his rating is very low, but there he is on the top screen of passers at 85.4. Interesting. Rushing. The rushing title goes to Dwayne Thomas of the Cowboys. So the best passer rating, Staubach of the Cowboys. Best runner, Dwayne Thomas of the Cowboys. Ken Willard finished in second, the only other guy to hit 1,300 yards for the 49ers. Willie Ellison had 1,173, and then look at this. Josephson on the same team, 1,064 yards. So 2 guys over 1,000 yards on the same team. Quite impressive. Little of the Broncos broke 1,100. Bugis of the Eagles was over 1,000, and Leroy Kelly, the other man to break 1,000 yards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them in total. The touchdown leader was Ken Willard, so second in yards, first in touchdowns. Pretty good year. The only guy to hit double digits, 11 touchdowns. Steve Owens of the Lions had 9, then Ellison, Otis, and Phillips each had 8. That surprises me. I thought there was more rushing touchdowns, but 11 by Willard is the leader. Who had a hard time holding on to the ball was quarterback of the Chicago Bears, Bobby Douglas, fumbled 14 times. Not great. Longest run of the year, a 96-yarder by Steve Owens of the Lions. Receiving, everything's Bob Hayes. Receptions, it's number 1 Bob Hayes at 88. Otis Taylor of the Chiefs, the only other guy to break 80 of 81. Then you see Kwolek, Stroud, Tucker, Norman, and Biletnikoff. Round out the tops. Yardage, also Hayes. You're talking about 1,691 yards. Otis Taylor had 1,405. It was really a two-man race. Hayes was way better than everyone. The only other guy in the vicinity was Taylor, and he was almost 300 yards behind. And then more than 300 yards behind him before you get to third place, Speedy Thomas. But Thomas, Haven Moses, and Fred Blitnikoff all also broke 1,000. Burrow missed it by 1 yard, 999 yards. Still a good year, though. And then touchdowns, maybe only one guy hit double digits. It was Bob Hayes, and he destroyed it, 17. The next two guys on the list are at 9 and 7. Those two combined have one less than Bob Hayes. Bob Hayes 17, Otis Taylor 9, and everybody else was mere mortals. Otis Taylor, I guess, was a very good mortal, whereas Bob Hayes is beyond the realm. Defensive, here's where things get out of control. Tackles Mike Lucci, 174. That's pretty big time. But watch this, sacks. Yep, Alan Page. That's why he's the MVP. 35 sacks. Actually could have been worse. I think he had 25, like 6 games in, until we turned the X Factors off. So 35 total. Maybe next year without X Factors, we'll have more in line than 20. So this 35. If it really was because of X Factors, this 35 might stand as the record for a few years. We will have to see. Two other guys hit 30, though. It's Mean Joe Green at 31 and Merlin Olsen at 30.5. Bob Lilly with 29. Honorable mention. Interceptions, 10 of them from Ken Riley of the Bengals, so that's pretty impressive. And let's see if we have defensive touchdowns. Defensive touchdowns, 5 by Ed Schrockman. Pretty impressive. Kicking. Kickers should have problems in 71. You see, not many of them had great percentages except for Charlie Gogolak of the Patriots, 90%. That's way too high for this time. So kicker's still too high. But at least you don't see everyone in the 90s, so that's something. And punting. Doesn't really matter. Kick return. Just check out who had touchdowns. A lot of people with 1. Nobody had 2. Braxton Garrett, Morrison, Belton, Thompson, Levias, and Robinson, all with 1. Punt returns, none. No, 2. Jimmy Warren of the Raiders and Vern Studdard of the Jets had the 2 punt returns. Okay, anything else I can think of pointing out for the season wrap-up? Well, just to reiterate, I know we did points per game, but just total points scored. Yep, 4 teams were able to score over 400 points on the year. Coming in at 4th, the Rams 404, Chiefs 428, Niners 448, and then a full 55 points more than that as the Cowboys at 503. Best defense was the Colts at 156. So that'll do it. That's the wrap-up and the playoff preview. We will get into the playoffs later this week. As always, have fun until next time.